Hey guys, Sam here at NA Studios. Today I'm taking a look at the Carney expansion pack for Trigger 2. Now this expansion pack is a little bit different from really any of the packs that I've got. This is focusing more on the kind of vintage style drums, the older, more kind of open sounding drums. So I thought it was worth taking a look at. And recently I did a session where a band did a cover of a Black Keys track, Lonely Boy. So I thought this was a perfect track to try it out on. Let's take a listen to how the drums sounded before and how they sounded after. Now this is what they sounded like before, with no triggers, no sample replacement of any kind. It doesn't sound bad, but it's just kind of lacking a little something. Here it is. But then, with some carefully chosen samples, we can get it to sound like this. Loads more depth and weight to that kick. The snare really punches out far more than the original track did. Let's take a look at this pack and how I'm achieving this sound. Now, first of all, with this kick, I'm not doing anything crazy here. I'm just going straight for the core presets. I've gone for the 20-inch, the MAP processed kick. I'm just keeping all the faders exactly where it is in the preset. Let's take a listen to that on its own. It's got so much depth to it, and it's got a real nice amount of roomy kind of airiness. But one amazing thing about this pack that I don't think I've really found in many other packs, and that's to do with the EQ. I've got the FGN here, and I've got this all the way up. I've got this up to 16 dB in the top end, and this Neve EQ is pretty aggressive at the best of times. Let's hear it just at 0, just the way it is normally dry, and then just bring that EQ up. You're not getting any of that kind of nasty click or pokey attack that you sometimes get on kicks when you're adding a load of high end. None of that real tacky stuff. You're just opening it up. You're just really opening up the top end and making it sound far more airy. I think that's something really unique to this kick set. So for the snare, I've gone for the Black Beauty, but I'm also adding in some of the Supraphonic on the room sound. Now I've got a Supraphonic, and this one sounds loads better than mine. It's recorded really well, and there's so much detail in it. And one thing that really amazed me when I took a listen to this snare, let's take a listen to it soloed and just listen to the articulations. Just listen to the loud parts and the quiet parts. Now, typically with a snare part like this, where the drummer is kind of rolling and keeping a beat with the rhythm there, I would be splitting out these hard hits and these soft hits to 2 separate tracks to trigger different samples and just to get those articulations right. But you just don't have to do that with this. It just picks it up so well, and the way that it's been mapped to the velocities has been incredibly well thought out. This Black Beauty, as I said, I do really like it, but the Supraphonic has got something special about it, and I'm using that, just the mono room mic. Take a listen to this mono room. Now this is just completely dry, this is just exactly the way it comes. I've just dragged in this sample just to use with the rest of them. Now that's being smashed, that's being annihilated by something, and I love it. It adds such a grungy element to it. It adds a nice texture on the top. If you listen to the snare without that, it kind of dies a little bit, and then when you bring that in, it really brings it to life. It just adds such an element of realism to it, which is kind of what you're often missing from sample packs. Samples by their very nature are not the most natural things in the world. The most natural snare sound is a snare sound, but this gets so much closer than loads more of the packs that I've actually heard, and I'm really impressed by it. So let's take a look at just a few of the individual snare sounds that we have. This is the top snare on its own, and that's forming the majority of the snare sound that I'm getting. But then that overhead, when we bring it in, again, it just adds another sense of realism to it. And it's kind of like having a bottom snare mic there as well, but it's really far over the top, which makes no sense, but in a good way. Then the mono overhead has got a fair amount of bottom end to it. It sounds kind of compressed, but you've still got some snap there. And the mono room, this is the one where you're really getting a load of that air. You're getting that distance on the snare. Then the effects mic is mad. But it's loads of weight, it's loads of boominess to it. What I like to do with this one is bring the sustain and the release all the way down to like a fraction of a second, and then bring the lower range up so that it's not triggering at the lower velocities. It's just listening to the lower velocities and then firing a higher velocity hit there, and you just get this explosive snare sound. Take a listen. Then when you add it in, you've just got this really well-rounded snare. You've got the lows, you've got the highs, you've got that airiness from that top room mic as well. And then when you bring in that supraphonic mono room, you've got that crushed sound that we heard earlier that I love. And I think it works so well in this kind of music. Thanks a lot for checking it out. This Patrick Carney set is just kind of different than anything I've heard before. It's not your typical modern, straightforward rock stuff. It's not clicky kick drums. It's not like super massive snare drums. It's dry, it's kind of close, but it's got a real vibe to it, and I like it a lot. It's one worth checking out if you're doing this kind of music. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you again soon. Take care.